Hi everyone, today we'll be taking a look at Halfway Home by Tommy Emmanuel. It's not the easiest song, but I will provide you with a few alternatives and a few tips on how to play it and how to improve your chances of getting it up to speed, because it is quite a fast song. So it will take some work, and it will take some time with the metronome as well to get this up to speed. A few quick pointers first. As usual, the guitar is in drop D tuning with a capo on the 2nd fret. Now you don't have to look long online to find versions of Tommy Emmanuel playing this in open position, but I would suggest using the capo on the 2nd fret just because this makes the hardest part of the song, namely the stretches in the verse, a bit easier to play. I've even had students who play this song with the capo on the 3rd or 4th fret just to make those stretches a bit more manageable, but I'll give you an extra word as soon as we arrive at that point. So let's dive into it. Get your thumb pick, get your capo, get your guitar, and let's get to work. We're starting out with the intro. So we're in drop D tuning. And we're starting out on a regular D chord, but we're not playing the high E string, so we're basically playing a power chord voicing, so open string, open string, open string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. This is the picking pattern. So we're playing an open D chord, adding the chord only on the 2nd beat, 1, 2, over to a B power chord. Now when you're playing this B power chord, you're playing 2nd fret with the index finger, 4th fret with the ring finger on the D string, and 4th fret on the G string with the pinky. But you're also using the open B string as well. Now the note you're playing with the pinky and the note you're playing on the open B string is exactly the same pitch, but it actually makes playing this part a little bit easier, since you can alternate between index finger and ring finger on the right hand without having to play the same string over and over again. So only the 2nd bar sounds like this. So you're playing that B note 3 times, but it's always on a different string. Open string, 4th fret, open string, and you're rounding out that bar always with a pull-off from the 2nd fret to an open bass string. So if we add those 2 bars together, this is what you get. That's the intro. Then we're moving on to the verse. The verse starts with an upbeat with an open string lick. So that's the intro melody to the verse. You're playing this 7th fret with the ring finger, open B string, 6th fret on the G string with the middle finger, hammering on with the pinky to the 7th fret, and then closing down with an open E string. The secret, or the key ingredient to playing this right, is getting all the notes exactly even. So these are 16 notes, every one of them. So each note has to be exactly as long or as short, however you want to see it, as the previous one. A bit slower. The biggest risk is speeding up on this hammer-on, is doing the hammer-on a bit too quick. So take your time and make sure all these notes are exactly the same length. And then from there on, it's straight into the melody of the verse. And this is going to be probably the biggest challenge of the song, namely the stretches. So this is how it goes. Let me play the first verse completely, then I'll come back and do the explanation. So that's the whole verse. As you can see, it's 2 times exactly the same thing, only the last chord is different. So the first time you're moving back to the first chord of the verse. The second time we're moving to a B minor, but more on that later as soon as we head over to the chorus. You've probably already noticed what the problem is going to be. These are quite large stretches. So if you play the first chord, you need open strings on the bass notes, and then 7th fret with the ring finger, 7th fret with the pinky, and 3rd fret with the index finger on the high E string. This is quite a large chord, so that's not easy to play. As you can see, what makes it easier is the capo on the 2nd fret. Now maybe you realize what the advantage can be to using the capo on the 3rd or maybe even the 4th fret, because your frets are always getting closer together the higher you move up the neck. Putting the capo on the 4th fret can make things a lot easier. So whatever your preference is, if you want to study the song and practice it and you're getting cramps in your left hand all the time, just move the capo up 1 or 2 frets and try to get the song in your fingers that way. So let's go over the melody line. So we're starting out 7th fret on the G string, 7th fret on the B string, 3rd fret on the E string, 2, 6th fret, 6th fret on the G string, 5th fret on the B string, 2nd fret on the high E string, 2, 4th fret, 3rd fret on the G and B string, and then 2 times the 2nd fret again on the G and B string. So the melody always moves in the same way. So you're always playing the chord, the 2 lower sounding strings first, moving up to the high E string and straight back down to the B string. With the bass notes added. One more thing I have to add is just the basic rhythm. Every time you do a chord change, it's right in front of the next beat. It's always between the 4th beat and the 1st beat. So it sounds like this if I count along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what you get if you add in the counts along with the rhythm. So every chord change moving down is between the 4th beat and the 1st beat of the next bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the whole part with the melody and the bass notes going at the same time. Now, as you know, the tutorials I do aren't always just a note-for-note replica of what Tommy Emmanuel plays, but I also want to show you a few methods or a few alternatives which might make it possible for you to get the song into your fingers. And at this point, maybe you're thinking, my hands are too small, I can't manage those stretches. There are alternatives. So what you can do is you can add in a lot of slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs and play this melody almost completely on the G and the B string and leaving out that high E string. This is what you get when you abandon the high E string and play the melody completely on those 2 strings. It sounds like this. Time, a bit more up to speed. So what's the difference? The fingerings are a bit different. What do you lose? A bit of the charm of the Tommy Emmanuel original are those overlapping strings. Each and every melody note overlaps with the previous or the next one. So those 2 notes, that G and that F sharp overlapping with each other is what makes the sound of the original, and you lose that in this version. So now you're always playing everything, every melody note is on the B string, sliding down, pulling off, pulling off, pulling off. So that might be an alternative. There is another way, and that's mixing up both approaches, so playing a bit of the Tommy Emmanuel original and adding in some of those hammer-ons and pull-offs. That's what I sometimes do. Those hammer-ons and pull-offs really take the heat off the right hand for just a few seconds, which sometimes can be necessary to recuperate very quickly, because the pace of the song is very quick. You're close to 140 beats per minute, and it's quite demanding for the right hand to keep that going all the time. So something I like to play once in a while is this. And then pulling off, and then pulling off here, and then back to the open string. So regular voicing, pull off, regular voicing. And it may sound strange, it's actually more complicated for this hand to play, since the Tommy Emmanuel original is always the same technique, but it does take the load of the right hand just for a few seconds, and sometimes during a live performance I find it necessary to give this hand a really, even if it's a split-second break, just to be able to finish the whole song in a relaxed fashion. So let me play that last option one more time, a bit more up to speed. So, and it's not really that noticeable. If you know what to look for, you hear the pull-off, but this is something you can mix up as well. For the rest of the tutorial, I will be sticking to the original fingering, but know that these options are there and you can take them. As soon as you manage to navigate those stretches and play the melody, you're good to go. The rest of the song will probably be easier than this first part. Now we're moving over to a G chord. Last part isn't too difficult at all, but the part right before that on the G chord, if you're used to playing thumb pick songs with the alternating bass line, this will blow your mind just for a few minutes before it sinks into your fingers. Is you have to stop alternating the bass string and you have to play the same bass string a few times in a row. I think 3 times in total. If you watch what the thumb pick is doing, it's alternating, and then 3 times on the same string. That doesn't seem too difficult, but for people who have been training for this style for years, always with the alternating thumb, this might feel a little bit alien. It did for me at least. So when you exit this part, it's just an ascending bass line going up to the very first chord of the verse again. A dominant 7th chord, sort of a G over B or a B minor chord, going to A dominant 7th with the root in the bass, and then back to same melody, no changes. We're ending on exactly the same part, but now the second time we're moving over to the chorus and to a B minor chord. So that's the start of the chorus. Let me play the chorus one time for you. back into the verse. So let's take a look at the chorus. This is actually a bit easier than the first part. So you're starting on a B minor chord with a bar on the 2nd fret, and you're going to lift that bar up right away to make room for the melody note, which is on the open E string. So the 2nd chord is an F sharp major chord with a 3rd in the bass. Memorize this chord shape because you will need it during the bridge as well. So for people who have seen the other tutorials, I'm always on the lookout for people with smaller hands who cannot play these bass notes with the thumb over the side of the neck. This is actually one of the easier ones, as you only have to play on the top 2 strings. So there's no big chord to hold down while reaching with the thumb over the side of the neck. But if you want to avoid this, it's perfectly possible to play this part with the index finger as well on the bass note. So instead of playing this, you can play as well. So with the index finger, with the thumb. So with the index finger, of course, you have to refinger a few things. You're playing the hammer-on with the middle finger and the melody note with the ring finger. And with the thumb over the side of the neck, you will be playing the same notes with the index finger and the middle finger. And then the next part consists of a bunch of chords moving down the neck. You're starting out on a G chord, going to a G minor chord. I have to play this like this, so with the index finger and the middle finger on the 3rd fret and the ring finger on the bass notes. Maybe if it's easier for you, you can use the pinky as well. Tommy himself uses one of those tiny little bar chords, but I don't know, maybe it's the size of my hands or he has something really special going on, but I can't seem to manage to play this little bar chord and have the E string ringing out open. So I'm obligated to play this with 2 separate fingers. To the 2nd chord, G minor. Then both the ring finger and the index finger are moving down 1 fret. The middle finger stays where it is, so from the G minor chord to a D chord with an F sharp in the bass. 2, you can look at this in different ways. Either it's an F minor 6th chord, or it can also be a D minor flat 5 chord. It's possible as well. So what happens again is the index finger and the ring finger move down 1 more fret, but it's probably physically pretty hard to keep the ring finger again, the middle finger, sorry, again, where it has to be. So you slide down and you replace the middle finger on the 3rd fret with the pinky, exactly same place. So from G to G minor to D over F sharp to F minor 6th to E minor 7th. That's the whole chord change. You're always playing the open E string on top as part of the melody. When I add in the alternating bass note and the melody, it sounds like this. Let me do that one more time, a bit more slowly. So it's always the same rhythm except the very first one. So those last two notes are just a bit quicker in succession to each other, and then everything else is the same rhythm. To an E minor chord. To that same ascending bass line and the same ascending melody we had before to link the first and the second part of the verse. So that's the whole chorus. Let me go over it one more time to make sure you didn't miss anything. straight into the second verse. Second verse and second chorus are completely identical to the first one. So instead of repeating the first and the first chorus and verse, I'm just gonna play the second one a bit slower, and then we're heading straight into the bridge. So remember, this is first verse, first chorus has been done now. This is the second verse and the second chorus. So let me start from the E minor 7th chord. That last bit is the only thing that changes. So the only thing that's different is the very last bar. So instead of playing again the ascending bass line and melody, we're staying on the E7 chord, moving to an A dominant 7th chord. And then straight back into the intro. So one more time, that last melody really slowly. So, and then we're playing straight after that last chorus, we're playing the intro again, completely, without that last open string lick to head into the verse, because now we're heading into the bridge, which is the last new section you will learn. When you get the verse, the chorus, and the bridge into your fingers, that's the whole song. With very little variations, it's almost everything is repeated in some way or another. So let's have a look at that last section, which is the bridge. We're starting on a D chord with a bar chord on the 5th fret. So hammering on from the bar on the 5th fret to the 7th fret. And remember, I told you just a few minutes ago to memorize this shape in the chorus because it would come back in the bridge. Well, here it is. So this time it's not like down below here an F major chord with the A sharp in the bass. No, this time it's an A chord with the C sharp in the bass. And the second part is exactly the same, 2 frets down, only the melody is a little bit different. And there's also one little change in the melody. The first time the chord change is again between the 4th and the 1st beat. The second time it's on the 1st beat. So this is what it sounds like back to back. Before the beat, on the beat. So heading over to a G chord, melody from an open string to the 2nd fret to the 3rd fret to an open E string to the 1st fret on the E string. To a D chord with the little trill on top. Yet again to an A dominant 7th chord. Then we are repeating the first 2 bars. With one difference, did you spot it? When we head to the second time we're playing the melody, so the first time is exactly the same. But the second time we're going to play the low E string as a root note. So the play them back to back. So both these phrases have been limited with the bass notes to the A string and the D string. And the second time around, we're playing the root note on the low E string, 3rd fret, which sounds like an F due to the drop D tuning. Then we're moving over to a B flat chord. We're starting out without a bar, so maybe in the camera it looks as if this is a bar chord, but I'm actually raising the finger up so the open E string can sound out. So the melody is... Now I'm dropping down the bar chord on the 1st fret to make sure I can play that high F. Bar chord on the 2nd fret, with a bit melody in 6th. Mind the fingering, so bar chord on the 2nd fret, middle finger on the 4th fret. Then I'm just keeping down this bar. 2 ring finger and pinky sliding up to the 7th fret. And then to a very, very typical Tommy Emmanuel voicing. Ring finger, 5th fret on the high E string. Index finger, 3rd fret on the B string, and the pinky, 6th fret on the G string. This is a voicing you see a lot in his playing. He uses it in I've Always Thought of You, Those Who Wait. There are quite a lot of songs where he uses this voicing. So that's what he does also in this song. And then arpeggiating. So 2 times. The same notes, then leaving out the ring finger, playing an open string instead, and then leaving out the index finger, and then ending up on the 7th fret of the D string. If you play that in succession to each other, this is what it sounds like. So that's the whole open string lick. Now, while you're playing this, starting from the bar chord at the 2nd fret, you have to keep the bass note going all the way through on the open A string. So it only drops out during the last few notes, but for the rest, this pedal note in the bass keeps going the whole time. And then you're back into the verse. Let me play the bridge one more time, slowly for you, so you can follow along and maybe pick something up you haven't noticed yet. Straight back into the verse. Good news is you've learned everything there is to learn about this song, so I'm just going to go over it to show you the rest of the structure of the song. There is one tiny little variation all the way at the end. So we have done now intro, verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2, and the bridge. The next section repeats exactly the same stuff. It's verse 3, chorus 3, and again the bridge. You're going to play, almost by exception in most pop songs, the bridge 2 times. From that bridge, you're into the last verse and into the ending. So we have up until this point done the intro, verse, chorus, bridge. I'm now going to play a bit more up to tempo through the next verse, the next chorus, and the next bridge, so we can end up at that very last verse. So here we go. A little bit faster, but still not on lightning speed like the original. Here we go. So let me start at the A chord. Chorus. And then we're into the very last verse. Very last verse. No difference except for the ending bit. So let me show you that. So we're playing one time again through the verse. Not a single difference up until this point. Into the chorus. And there it is, that's the difference. So there we're ending up on the E minor chord. Ascending bass line and straight back into the chorus, so to that B minor chord, and we're playing the chorus through one more time. So from the E minor chord, for dramatic effect, you may pause on this chord. Back into the intro. Slowing down. And the end chord. So after playing the intro for the final time, we are basically playing the same open string lick. And we're slowing down all the way through. Ending up on a D with an added 6th 9th degree. So open string, 5th fret with the pinky, 4th fret with the ring finger, 2nd fret, sorry, with the index finger, and two open strings in the top. So there you go. That's the whole of Halfway Home. That's everything you need to know to get the song into your fingers. As always, take it slow. Maybe think about those alternatives, about those hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides I suggested. Maybe you can put them to use. If the stretches are too big, move the capo up 1 or 2 frets to make him a bit smaller. If you have room for even larger stretches, then you can leave out the capo and just play this song in standard position with the open string. Whatever you do, have fun, enjoy the tune. It's a beautiful piece of music, and see you next time. Bye bye.